country music fans out there. This is Leigh with Coda Country, and today I am blessed to have in the studio Raleigh Keegan. How are you today, Raleigh?
I'm doing very well, Leigh. Thanks for having me on this. It's great to
Of
meet you.
course. Oh my gosh, it's so great to meet you too. And I just have to say, I'm a big fan of your music. I have a friend of mine who shared your wonderful name with me, and I've now kind of gotten in the loop and had a chance to listen to you so shout out to my friend Brendan from TikTok. Yeah, he's a big fan too, so I'm sure he's going to be tuning in and checking this podcast out. So yeah, I guess tell me more. Tell me about your story, because this is why I want you here today. I wanted to hear everything that you have going on. I can't wait to learn more about you. So go right ahead.
Yeah, so let's just start from the beginning. I was adopted when I was 4 days old.
Wait,
My
stop.
birth
Hang on, wait. I was adopted too when I was
Were
4 days
you
old.
really?
I swear,
When
yes.
you were 4 days
That's so
old?
crazy. Yes.
That's
Yeah. Here,
odd. Whoa.
we'll share those stories in a bit, but let me hear yours first, and then I'll come back and I'll tell mine. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. Well, yeah. So like you, I was adopted 4 days after I was born. And birth mom had me when she was in prison. And so she
Oh,
gave me up for adoption, and I was raised like right outside of Cincinnati by two awesome parents who got me and my brother involved in like everything. They got us our first piano when I was like 7. Um,
wow.
we went on a big haul up to Michigan to get this free piano, and they were the type of parents that just like got you involved in everything, even things you
Yeah.
don't want to be involved in, like swim team. Dear Lord, for all you little boys out there that are struggling with wearing a Speedo, you are not alone.
Well, that's a mental image that I'm going to try to just out of my head. Okay, got it. All right.
Yeah, hopefully it goes quickly. So, yeah, so we were involved in everything, and I was highly involved in sports and music as well. Like I was first chair in the state in jazz trombone, which makes no sense with country music, I know. But I was always very, very musical. I always say that I was a football player. I was a musician trapped in a football player's body. And so I kind of did both, and I played football in college, and because I thought at the time that's what the girls wanted, and so that's what I did.
The football
And
player, sure.
and yeah, went to college to play football and just fell in love with music even more after that. And then fast forward, got an exercise science degree. My wife, who was just my friend at the time, but she's my wife now, and she introduced me to country music, which I had listened to some country music growing up. Like I listened to Garth, and I listened to like Jimmy Buffett, more country than half the stuff out there today. So I consider that country music.
That's fair.
And stuff like that. It's okay. So she introduced me to this Zac Brown Band record, and that really changed the trajectory of my life. Weirdly, I was a personal trainer at the time. I was thinking about going into ministry, which was, I know why my brain is like a squirrel, by the way. So I'm just going to go, that's how I write songs.
Right. Just follow it wherever it goes. Just go. Yeah.
Just follow it wherever it goes. That's what I do. It's unfortunate for many people. But yeah, I became obsessed with country music. I started writing songs on my break as a personal trainer, and really just like dove into that hard. And I probably wrote 60, 80 songs in half a year by myself on my breaks. And
Wow.
I put like 6 of those songs out. I put them out as demos, and they kind of worked online, even though they're not out anymore and you can't find them. Thank God, they're terrible. But I put them out, and it kind of worked and got me my start in music as a profession. And I started playing gigs, and I really caught the bug. I call it the bug because it's an addiction to do this. And
Infectious.
and then
Yes,
I convinced my wife to sell our house to pay for my first real record. So
wow.
we sold our house to pay for my first project in Nashville, and we moved here. And that was crazy. I don't know if I would recommend that to people. I certainly wouldn't, actually, but I did it, and I was kind of young naivety, you know, and it worked. Thank God it worked. And I just kind of have been writing and releasing tons of music ever since, and toured and have grinded and made the slow climb up in this crazy town. This music business is insane. It makes no sense. It's really hard. It's not for the faint of heart. But like, I think what keeps all the creators who do it going is like that next song that gives you life, like that next thing in the studio, that next show that makes it all worth it. So that's kind of been a snapshot of my journey.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that sounds so great. So, you were talking a little bit about your recorded music, putting up your house for sale just so you could do your first big record. Tell me about, like, when was that? What year was that? Do you remember?
So that was 2017 when we moved.
Okay, yeah. So that's like the first set of songs that I've listened to you, which are wonderful. And tell me, from the 60 to 80 that you wrote when you first started getting obsessed with country music, how many of those songs were pulled for this EP, project, album, whatever you want to call it? Are there any? Are they all
Zero.
new? They were all new at the time. Wow, that's crazy.
All new. Zero.
Yeah,
None of them.
amazing.
They say that songwriting, if anybody wants any good, if you're trying to do this, the best advice I can give you is write 100 songs and throw them all away and then start again. I mean, I probably have written close to, I don't know, definitely over 500 songs I've written.
Wow.
And that's not even a lot. That's not even a lot compared to like a lot of the people on Music Row, right? Like, there's a real craft in this that you can't fake. You really cannot get good apart from just doing it.
Yeah, makes sense. Practice makes perfect, right? Like, you just got to do it.
It's really the 10,000 hours thing.
Mm-hmm.
Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. And like in anything, it's hard to express something worthwhile. It just takes time. That's all I'll say. It just takes time to get good at this.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, you definitely are great at it. So
don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah. Very cool.
Thank you.
All right, 2017, you dropped the first EP. So we have some recent releases that you have now, Where We Are, and then I Hate Country Music, which is so funny since you just talked about how you're obsessed with country music. Tell me about the writing process on those two songs that you just recently released.
Okay. Where We Are is the most recent one. I wrote that with Casey Beathard and Dan DeMay. And I feel like they helped me tell a story about my wife that is just so relatable to so many people. But if people don't know who Casey Beathard is, you need to Google him. He's probably had like 20 number ones. Yeah. He wrote so many hits for Eric Church. He wrote Homeboy for Eric Church, Doing Life with Me, Hell of a View, Loves Me Like Jesus Does. He wrote Don't Blink for Kenny Chesney. He's one of the most respected songwriters in all of Nashville. I mean, dude is one of the goats. He's a monster. So
that's amazing.
Getting to write with him was awesome. And that was one of my first co-writes in Nashville. And I feel like that was me. I went into that write with those two dudes, and I was just like, I'm going to try and shut up and just learn as much as I can because I really respect what Eric Church has done, because he's made Eric Church doesn't necessarily play by the rules. He doesn't play the quote Nashville game where you write a song like this and make it sound like this because that's the formula. So I was really curious to see how Casey Beathard wrote, and I wanted to sit under that and just kind of watch. And I love that song. It's one of my favorites on this whole project. So that's that one. I Hate Country Music. This one really hits home because it's an incredibly fun song. I thought it was so clever at the time. I loved it. But I wrote it with Kyle Jacobs, who unfortunately recently just passed away. He's Kelly Pickler's husband.
Oh,
And yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yes.
it was, it's been all over the news. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's crazy. He
Yeah, I
died.
have.
He died a few weeks ago. And a few weeks before that, I had just texted him and was like, dude, I'm so excited for this song. And he was so excited for it. And people have so many stories about him. He was like the lit up the room, was a great dude. Really obviously battled some demons for sure. But it's special that
Mm.
that song got to come out. You know, so those are the stories. Those are the stories of those two. And for the people who message me and say, "Do you really hate country music?" You really just need to listen to the song. I don't need to explain it. You need to like.
Right.
We need to challenge people to listen
Exactly.
to the lyrics at least once. Yeah.
That's right. That could be a new TikTok challenge. I feel like people listen to the words and then you'll get it. Yes, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. More than 10 seconds.
Yes, please. Oh my gosh. Dive in, folks. So, with those two songs, I know that you've also talked to me about releasing some more music coming out March 24th. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So these are all singles that are gonna be on an album called Scenes from a Sixth Street. So this next
Mhm.
song is the only collaboration. Like there's two other girls on this song with me that are singing, and I'm just telling y'all right now, I think it's the best one on the whole project. I think it's I think it's the best one. The girls kill it. I'm not going to reveal who. Yeah, they're great. They're actually new. They're new, but what I really love is to find people who people don't know about yet who deserve attention. I really like to do that because I like to show people like see how this person has no listeners and how much better they are than this person who has a ton of listeners. I love to like promote people who I think are really good. So I'm excited for that. These girls are kind of new, up and coming. Um, but get ready. It's a banger. It's a smash, I think.
Ah, I can't wait to hear it. Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
Um, Scenes from a Six String, that's a really cool title, by the
Yeah.
way. I just had to say.
Thank you.
So I can't wait for the full project to release. Uh, do you think that these songs on this project have a similar sound to your previous stuff, or is this like something completely different? How would you characterize like how this new project is going to be?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. I feel like this. So there was an album called Clocks Roll Forward that I released. I've just basically I've released
Mhm.
tons of music over the past few years. Like I did a kind of
Yeah,
concept
good one.
album called A Tale of Seven Cities. I did a full length album called Clocks Roll Forward. Before that, I did an album or an EP called Who I Want to Be. We've just done a ton of music over the past few years. I forgot about one. I
Mhm.
did a project over the quarantine called, over COVID called Intermission with 8 songs on it. Released a ton of music. But this one, I feel like this is Clocks Roll Forward 2.0, if that makes sense. So if anybody out there listening likes my album Clocks Roll Forward, which is my first full length album, this is like this is an extension of that.
Big fan. Yeah.
The blessing and the curse that I have in this business is that I don't sound like someone else. And a lot of people say that, but I think it's true for me. And I don't mean it like I'm better than someone. It's just, I don't know that like people will listen to my stuff sometimes and not know what to do with it, not know what genre it is, not know. It's like my own kind of lane. I try to do my own kind of lane of country music. So this is kind of like an extension of that, an extension of Clocks Roll Forward. So it's like country rock, but like you'll listen to it and be like, not sure that I've heard something that sounds like that. So that's kind of my,
Yeah.
if I have a bread and butter, that's what I like to do.
It's so true that you say that because I've been trying to pinpoint like who I think you sound like, but I can't. There's like pieces here and there of
Yep.
similarities in the vocal quality of certain singers that I know, and Yeah, I agree with you 100% that you sound like no one I've ever heard.
Well,
So
yeah.
it's
Well, let
great.
me ask
Yeah,
you
I love
this:
what I hear. Hmm.
who do you think there are some similarities with? I'd be curious to hear.
Of course.
Do you
I
off the
hear a
top of your
little
head?
bit. Yeah, no, 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 I got it. I got it ready. I hear a little bit of Brett Eldridge mixed with like Brett Young, so like two different Bretts there. A little bit
Sure.
of Chris Lane, like a tiny, tiny bit.
That's
And then,
interesting.
but there's also like a, I know, but there's also like a little bit of a soulful Chris Young in there. So two Bretts, two
Uh
Chris's. I don't know, take it or leave it. But yeah, that's
huh.
kind of some of my takeaways there.
Cool, cool, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I'll take
yeah,
that.
for sure.
Two Bretts and two Chris's.
Okay,
That's
well,
funny.
so talking about other artists too, and you talked a lot about Eric Church and how he like does not play by the rules. Are there artists who you think have really influenced your style more or less? Like,
Mm.
I know that we talked about you don't really sound like anybody else, but is there anybody
Yeah.
who you look up to or anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, even though I try to, be unique or whatever and do me, because that's part of my personality, like everybody's a product of their influences, right? So, I mean, I grew up on the Eagles. I grew up on James Taylor. I grew up on Billy
Hmm.
Joel. I grew up on John Mayer. I grew up on Travis Tritt. Um, there's so many. And I think that's like, I really think the common denominator between those two, all of these, is that they all, without a, do you know what I mean when I say they're all real? That they're all like organic, real. They tell,
Authentic. Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
yes, like they tell
Hmm.
like, how you can listen to some people and you think, do you really think that? Are you just saying that? Are you really singing that song because you think I'm gonna like it? That's a big
Hmm.
difference, right?
Hmm.
Like there's a big difference between something coming from a place of passion and desire and expression and and um hey, I wrote this because I think people might like it.
Hmm.
That kind of pandering thing, like I can detect that like nobody's business. Like I'm very cynical when it comes to music, unfortunately. So I'm kind of a
The
I'm kind
best
of a
worst
pure
critic.
pure
Yeah.
snob.
No,
Sorry.
I totally get
Yeah,
that
so
though.
I'm even that way with myself. I'm very critical of myself too. So it's not just everybody else. Um, but you know, Miranda Lambert, I think, does a great job of that.
Yeah.
I think her stuff comes off as believable to me, interesting, unique. Chris Stapleton, I mean, he's one of my huge influences. I love Chris Stapleton because I just think he's the real deal. I think this is going to sound strange, but I think it's really rare in country music for people with like really high level of talents to make it super mainstream. I don't know if that makes sense to other people, but some of the Chris Stapleton is an anomaly. Like
Hmm.
he is probably the best country singer on earth, and has still made it huge. And I think that's so great. I love it when people with like excessive amounts of talent also get commercial success. I think that's great, and rare. That's more rare than people think.
No, I
I mean, it took
completely
Chris
agree with
Stapleton
that.
like 17 years to hit it.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree with that because
Yeah,
sometimes people can't wrap their heads around like why is this person so good? How is this person so good? And it's not as quick for someone to just like understand the quality that they're experiencing, you know? So yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, yeah,
sure,
yeah. Hmm.
sure.
Yeah, I really love what you said about I guess not fishing for listeners. And maybe that kind of tag teams off of that too with the Chris Stapleton comment. Like he is just making music to make music. And I think that's a little bit of what you do too, is that you make great music because you love to make great music. You don't want to make music for just anybody. You want to make music
Yes.
because it's like quality and what you want for sure. Hmm. But no, I know exactly what you mean though. And I can hear a lot of that authenticity in your writing and in your vocal sounds overall, honestly. So, okay, we talked a little bit about different artists. I'm gonna segue a little bit and talk more about like live performances now. Can you tell me about one of your favorite live shows that you've ever performed?
Ooh. Um, one time let's see. One of them would be opening for Eric Church at the Pepsi Gulf Coast Jam. What an honor. Um, just because I'm just obviously a fanboy, right? And it was like Brothers Osborne was before that, was after us, and that was just such a crazy experience. Just because like I was just a dude from Kentucky that was, a personal trainer who just started this and just tried really hard, and I at that moment, I just couldn't believe I got that opportunity to do that and in front of so many people. Um, that's one for sure.
Yeah, Pepsi Gulf Coast. Yeah, the Pepsi Gulf Coast Jam is like very close to where I live.
Oh,
So
really?
that's a awesome venue to play. Tons of people. Yeah, yeah. So I live maybe like 2 hours from that beach. So that's a really
Okay,
cool place
cool.
to be.
Are
So
you in
awesome.
Alabama or Florida or
Um,
Georgia?
I'm in Georgia. Yeah, I'm like in the corner between like an hour from Tallahassee and an hour from Dothan, Alabama. So yeah, I live pretty close to everything down here in the South, which is nice. So yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
okay,
Cool.
yeah. Um, what live shows do you have coming up in the near future? Just in case anybody listening wants to come out and see you play.
Yeah. So right now I've got a bunch of events, but we're planning for the summer. So you can just follow me on whatever at Raleigh Keegan. There, it's all at Raleigh Keegan, and we'll be posting shows and stuff for sure.
That sounds perfect.
But
Yeah.
right now we're kind of just in the planning stages. Yeah.
Good. 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 And then how? I guess if there was like a set, I know you just like fanboyed over Eric Church, and maybe he's one of the names that you're going to list right now. If there was like a dream tour that you could go on, maybe that you're headlining, maybe that you're like supporting, um, who would your tour consist of?
Oh, this would make no sense. I'm just gonna like jump around. I would like it. I would just like if I could be a part of this, it'd be ridiculous. But I would say like Zach Brown Band, Chris Stapleton, John Mayer, and Billy Joel. That I know that that doesn't make sense, but if it was to happen, I
It
would be
doesn't
all
have
over it.
to make sense. I feel like that is, whew, that's a good lineup right there.
It doesn't make
It does
sense.
not have to for it to be that good. Oh my gosh, that would be stellar.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, very cool. It's so crazy because you definitely have all of those influences in your style too. I
yeah.
think little Zach Brown, little Chris Stapleton. Yeah, I totally hear Billy Joel for sure. Wow, that's so
Yep.
crazy. Okay, well, Raleigh, I've really enjoyed talking with you today. Before we hop off, I know you just like spouted out your social media handle at Raleigh Keegan. Is there anything else that you'd like to promote, or anything that you or anybody that you'd like to shout out before we hop off today?
The only other thing would be my management is setting up a. I should have told you this when you said shows, but these aren't public shows. But they're doing a house concert tour, which
Mhm.
I'm hyped for because it's filling up and it's fun. But people can,
Oh,
if they want to, just DM me on any social media. Like I'll connect them to my management, and they can set up a show at their house or something for their friends and family and I'll come down and play, which is, I've done those before and they are really cool. They're really, really cool because I'll hang out, we'll chill,
yeah, for sure.
play. Yeah. So anyways, that'd be the
That
last
sounds
thing.
like a lot of fun, honestly. I wish I could, yeah, find a house party to find or to set you up with. That
Yeah.
sounds really cool. Okay, well, I think that's all we have time for today, but it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I hope to talk to you again in the near future. I know we've had talks about meeting up and doing something in person, so hopefully that'll come to fruition and we can hang out soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Leigh. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. And you heard it here with Coda Country. See you soon.